In this session, we have to resume our discussion on active and passive voice. The second video on active and passive voice. The basic details have been given, and we will look into the details of different tense, different sentences, different active sentences constructed according to the rules of different tense forms, and how we can transform such sentences into its passive form. The first one we have already discussed in the first video. Still, let us take as let's begin here itself. Simple present. You take the example. A simple sentence you construct using that tense. So subject, object. Next rule is about interchanging the subject and object, so that a story comes as the first part of the passive sentence. Then we have this rule, we have to learn that. That rule actually we have to learn. For the sake of convenience, I give you a kind of notion, or at least an idea to remember that. You can think about you're getting these helping verbs, you are getting it as learn from the next tense. If you are aware of that, it will be easy for you to remember. That's all. Otherwise, it's about learning how to transform a simple present tense sentence into passive voice. Then you have to learn this rule intact. Anyway, we have only 8 constructions to be aware of, because already told you all the tense forms do not have passive form. In the case of present tense, only the first 3. In the case of past tense also, only the first 3 tense forms have a passive form. Fourth one of each, both, do not have a passive form. So in the same way, future tense, we have to think about the first and the third tense forms to have to or having passive form. Otherwise, second and the fourth one actually do not have passive form. So in rule, even if we are just taking that rule, the construction, the formation rule, then also it will be fine. Only that much is to be remembered. So here a story, you select from the list, actually am, is, are. From that we take is, because a story is singular subject, we know. And I already told you, the 3 plus by plus object is the constant part. There is no change. Whichever passive form of whichever tense based sentence it may be, there is no change for this. So what we have to take from this rule is V3 form of a verb is must. We should know the V3 form. If it is go, went, gone, it should be gone. Come, came, come. It's come. See, so, seen. It's seen. So every time we have to know that. Otherwise we won't be able to come up with the proper passive voice form. Then by plus object. Actually by as a preposition, we know it means what, but it's actually the way in which something is done, or by whom. That's how this particular idea is completely communicated. A story is written by whom? In an active statement, active sentence, the subject is assumed to do some task, and we say it directly. We say it straight. But here you are interchanging the subject and object. So that participle idea, the notion of participle format of the verb is really needed. Now let us go to the second tense, present continuous tense. Here you take the normal active statement. Sergeant is writing a story. We know how to construct a simple active statement using present continuous rule. Sergeant, subject. As we know, as a singular subject. you can take that am or is or are. From that you opt is. Writing. As it's a continuous tense sentence, we have to choose the ing form of the verb. Then at the end you have to add an object. One more thing, anyway, whichever transformation question it may be, only if the sentence is with an object or the main verb carries an object, you can go for the transformation. Sometimes we very simply write that like Sajan writes. While learning tense, to make things very clear and simple, we avoid adding, sometimes at least we avoid adding the object. In that way also you can make a sentence or write a sentence. But the problem is, here for the sake of transforming a sentence, either into passive, from active to passive or from passive to active, you need these two parts. It's mandatory, it's compulsory that you have an object. Subject is already anyway, it will be there. But an object also is very urgent in the case of such a question or such a task. Otherwise, how will you interchange the subject with the object, which is the first and foremost step in this transformation. So in that way, here, next sentence when you take the second sentence, present continuous tense, normal present continuous sentence is already here. How do we go for the transformation into passive voice? Again we are going for active to passive itself. In the at the first stage, we can take it, we can learn from the very simple to the next level. So here a story is taken to the first part as the subject of the sentence, passive sentence. Then again we use the same am or is or are option. This second tense is not taking along from the next tense or anything, but you are using the same am or is or are for the both for first and second tense passive transformation in present tense. Am or is or are. But then if you are just using this one, how will you differentiate a passive form of present continuous tense from that of simple present? A story. Simply you are using am or is or are, you are choosing one. Yes, it is story, it's going to be is. That is clear. But then, if it is just be3 plus by plus object, you will not be able to identify whether it is a continuous statement getting passive into passive voice or whether it is an on-the-spot action which is transformed into passive form. So we need an addition, that is being. Being is a constant, it's taken as a part which is necessary there if it is a continuous tense statement. Continuous tense transformation, you have an additional as it is giving. You can take it in a very funny way if you just want to remember it in a funny way. As it is giving a loan, allotting, it's very generous to allot its helping verb to the neighbor, it gets a benefit in the mode of an addition, being. So it's just a simple things to remember, simple ideas to remember that, that's all. Otherwise, it's just about learning the construction like subject plus am or is or are, a story is taken as the subject. And it is a singular subject, am, is, are. From that you choose is. Then the constant rule, whenever you see a continuous, present continuous tense sentence, instead of Sajan is writing a story, you can have different subjects, different objects, different main verbs. Accordingly, you should be able to choose. Even if it is instead of a story, you are given stories. Then stories from am, is, are list, you have to choose are. That is your logic of the person who is going for transforming and making such practices. So are, being, So that it's a constant. Being. Then again the same part. B3 plus by plus object. You know, write is the basic word, basic main verb. So its B3 form is write, wrote, written. Written is the B3 form. The by plus object. You are taking the interchange the subject as the object as usual. So that's it. That's already the second sentence. Second type, second tense. What about the third one? Let us go to the present perfect normal active sentence. Active is a statement sentence. Okay, we know how to build a present perfect tense based sentence. Very simply, if you are having a subject and a main verb, how to construct an affirmative sentence. Now all of us know. After learning tenses, we all are thorough about it. So how will you do that? Sergeant, yeah, has or have. From that list, you take, as sergeant is a singular subject, you can take that has, and obviously this regarding this tense, the task is even such perfect tense sentences. If you have the task of transforming, sentence transformation, things are more easy because already in the active sentence you get the V3 form. So you don't have to think about the basic form of the verb, then V2, V3 form. You don't have to go in search of. Perfect tense, whichever perfect tense it may be, whether present or past or future, it allows such a provision. You are already given the one part of the task. It's already finished. You already get it here. Anyway, we want V3 form here. Whichever sentence, whichever tense it may be, we need the V3 form for passive form format. So a story, you again take the same way. Sajan has written a story. Write, wrote, written. So that's a normal active voice sentence. A story, you take that back and make it as the sentence. Has been. Actually, has been as a helping verb we know from the next neighboring tense. But here we do not mean that has been, but we write down in this way only. Has or have. If it is story, singular, you choose has. If it is stories, a plural subject here, then you have to take have. But been, you do not write down like has been or have been plus, but been is taken as a constant here in present perfect tense. Actually, you can take it as a noun if you want to remember it your own yourself. Yeah, here only has or have is there in the active form. So you can take the next. You can take it. Otherwise, how will you understand? If there is no been here, you just think about your not adding been. Then it's just about an interchange of subject and object. A story has written by what? It's an error. You can never write down in that way. So this addition, this particular word is very important and it should be added if you want to transform a present perfect tense active sentence into passive. So that with the addition you understand that, yeah, this is a story has or have. Story, as it is story, singular subject has plus been as the constant and our usual method like V3 plus by plus object. That's why I told you written. This is already, you avail it here. Written is already available there. By plus object. Yeah, the interchange the subject becomes the object. That's all. So already present perfect. So there is a confusion. Like already we say has been, have been. This is a continuous tense based related helping verb. So with 3, when you see that there is likely to have confusion, or even with amis, every time we are supposed to remember it's ing form of the verb. So now we are likely to have this confusion. But every time you can easily identify a passive voice form by this part itself. There should be by plus object. There will be a by at the end or somewhere. Most often. Sometimes we can write down without that also. Still, then you have to see the normal construction is not available, but something V3 is the in an unlikely combination. Usually, yeah, is and usually goes with the ing. Has alone goes with has or have alone go. It usually go. We have to take the V3 form, but here has been is with the V3. Then obviously it must be passive form. So this is the way you can improve your identifying the tense and sentences. Otherwise, we are likely to be confused. So the first and foremost thing is about our being really thorough about tenses and then going to learn passive form, which is the next step. Now once again think about the logic of this particular active format of present perfect continuous is not having a passive form. Already has been is given as alone to the neighbor, so that in this case you can add a being to make it somewhere different, distinguished. But already this is a very lengthy combination. To make this again distinguishable, to mark the difference, you cannot add one more part for that. Just think about your writing down like has been, being, nothing like that. It's a complication. So there is no passive form needed. It's not there. It's a pure, simple explanation that I find out. Nothing very formal on the part of grammar, but it will become awkward. Actually, see, grammar, sentence, any language is about making things look beautiful. At least in an affordable way. It should not be awkward. When we say something, when we make errors while constructing sentences, this is what is happening. It becomes awkward. Instead of has, when we use have, or instead of are, when we use is, it becomes awkward in fact. That's why we try to avoid that by learning the grammar. Simply saying that is the way. Not just for our being the perfectionists or something, but to make things very clear and affordable. So let us go to the past forms. What about simple past? Simple past, a sentence. Okay, the active sentence, how does it look? Sergeant wrote a story is the normal active sentence. How does it come? Singular subject, whichever subject it may be, we have only one helping verb, did. And did plus V1 will definitely look like V2, which is in the case of write as the basic V1 form, write, wrote, written. So V2 form is wrote. Here you take the active form so that you have to construct the first part as the real affirmative sentence in that tense itself. Now it's clear, when you see the V2 form of the verb, there is no other chance for any other type of tense, but it should be simple past only. V2 form of the verb. Only one tense takes that main verb form, V2, which is simple past. So write, wrote, written. From that, you can easily identify this to be the simple past active voice statement. Then a story. So object of the main verb is a story again. We take it very consistently to make things simple. That's all. Now our task is to transform this into passive form. Right? Yes. So let us see. Here again the same task of interchanging the subject with the object. A story is taken to the forefront. Then, So we have to see the rule. And normally we take this, actually whenever we talk about active and passive voice, we have a very classic example like Rama killed Rama. Ravana is killed by Rama killed Rama killed Ravana. Ravana was killed by Rama. This is the classic example you always take. In that case, this is the example. Actually, we take directly from past tense. This is it. A story was or were. Actually, simple past tense is having only one helping verb, that is did. But again, you are taking from the neighbor, you are taking learn from the neighbor was or were, which is actually the helping verbs of past continuous, the second tense in past category. Just for sake of remembering, I am giving you this point. Otherwise, it's just about construction. Subject plus was or were. Which one will you choose? A story is a singular subject. So, definitely we have to choose was as the helping verb. If it is stories, we have to choose where. That's all. Where, here it is story was. Then, very simply, you can write down V3 plus by plus object. Means, wrote. The V3 form is written. Written by. So, which is the object? The interchange the subject, sergeant, becomes the object of that sentence. That's all. Now, shall we go to past continuous tense? Past continuous tense, very simple, active voice treatment. Let us look at that. The same subject, was or were, singular subject from was. Actually, it's a continuous tense, so ing form of the verb in the normal active sentence treatment. Sergeant was writing a story. So you identify this to be a past continuous tense statement. So now our first task is to interchange the subject and object. Here it runs to the second line, so you can mark down like that. A story is taken to the front part, first part. Was or were is already given as a long. So again, for that generosity, again this tense also, here also it gets a benefit like an additional term being. So you can easily identify that. With the present continuous tense passive voice, there is a constant like being. With the past continuous passive form also, as it is giving the loan to the former, the neighbor, it's very generous, so you get an additional benefit here, like being as a constant. It is there as an additional constant working out there. So obviously, was or were is already there. If you don't add that constant, it's the same thing will happen. Same sentence will follow. So we want to mark down the difference. That's it. You should understand that when a passive voice format statement is given to you, you should identify whether it is a past definite point action or whether it is it was an action continuing in the past. So these ideas also should be clear from the passive voice as it is with the active voice. In active voice, you can easily identify. Sergeant wrote a story. An action that happened at a definite point of time in the past. But here you can understand when it is was writing with any subject. Subject was performing the action in the past but in a continuing manner. The action is of a continuous nature. Okay, so here coming back to that, a story. From that list, the option again, both tenses share the same helping verbs. If you want to identify that in that way also, you can think. Was or were is again shared in between. They are very good friends, neighbors. So they take it in that way. Was a story, as it is a story, you take was. You use was from the option. If it is stories, as usual, you can take were. Yes, thus being. Was, being, V3 plus by plus object means V3 means wrote. When you see wrote or writing, you identify that basic to be right, then write, wrote, written. So you take written plus by plus object, Sajan. This is all. That also is over. Now to past perfect tense. The third type that also has got a passive form. The fourth of each of present and past. Those do not have passive form. But we have to see the third past form and its passive voice construction as well. Sajan had written a story. So it's a very active statement because there is no by plus by or anything. That's how, otherwise you are likely to be confused if you are not thorough about this part. It's an active statement. There should not be a confusion. Had and V3. That's just about the past perfect active normal statement in tense that we build in tenses. Sajan had, because any subject may take had because it's only one and only helping verb available for this tenses, had or had. And obviously as it is a perfect tense, you have to get the V3 form there itself. So passive voice transformation, the task is simplified because one part which is necessary is already here available. We don't have to go and check out. If you get writing ing or V2 form, we have to be in search of that V3 form. But here task is comparatively simple. Yeah. Written a story. That's an active statement you get there. Now we have to go to the passive form. Passive statement. Transformation. A story. Yes. You take that had. But you are taking, actually we know next tense holds the helping verb form to be had been. But you are not writing down here like had been, but had plus been. We have to mark down this to be an additional feature of its passive format. It's not taken as a helping verb as you talk about that tense. Otherwise, it's simple that you write down here like subject plus had been. But we should not do like that. It's preferable that you write down this in this way itself. If you mark down the construction or even when you think about that. So because it's not the direct helping verb, but you are taking this been as the additional feature for the transformation. Okay, so a story had been, had plus been, again had been because only one helping verb form is available. There is no differentiation between singular subject, plural subjects, nothing like that. V3 plus by plus object, constant V3 written by plus object. You take the subject as the object. That task also is over. So rules. What about the fourth tense? Fourth type under past category also doesn't possess a passive format. Formation is not possible. So we can directly move to future tense. Okay, future tense. Let us have a look at it. Already, I would again like to mention only first and third odd numbered tenses, forms hold the passive form. So only two constructions we have to check out. The formation of these two only are there. The other two you can take that to have no passive form. Now, simple future tense. Very simple active statement. How will you build? Okay, very simply you take the subject, will or shall. You take that will. V1 form only write a story object. A simple construction in the future format. Okay, yes. Then you have to do the same. You have to initiate the same process of marking the subject and object. If you are taking a paper and a pen, you can write down and just underline the subject, object. You should make the practice of, in this way. You, under each word you try to mark down like subject, then main verb, object. Underline and mark down this interchanging so that it will be easy for you how to interchange. You will not forget to do that. Let's say it should be made as a practice. And again, identifying the tense is very important. As we are looking at the table, which is already given here, this sentence belongs to this tense. It's easy, simple. But during examination time and all, you get only the question, a particular sentence. We don't even know whether it's an active statement or passive statement. Already, that possibility already mentioned. Like it can be given a passive statement. Then you have to go to transformation only is the question. It's not always from active to passive. When we are in the beginning, we mention only this. And then we will, in the next part, we can go to the other ideas. The same way, a story is taken. Instead of sergeant, you interchange the subject and object. Yeah, will is the will or shall. That available helping verbs are put. It's constantly kept there. But you add this be. Be as a constant. It should be in blood. It's not the V3 plus Y plus object form. That is the constant. Green color. I have marked down that to be green color consistently everywhere. To make it very clear. Here it is will or shall. From verb do we actually get this be? Will be or shall be. In unison it looks like will be or shall be. Actually the second tenses of every category are very generous. This is giving the be, will be, shall be as long, so that it doesn't, this next tense doesn't have a passive form at all. At the expense of its having a passive form, it is giving it very generously. It's on helping verb actually. So when writing you compartmentalize it in this way, like will or shall plus be. You never write down, if you write down the formation rule, subject plus will be or shall be, but will or shall plus be. To make sure that this is using its own helping verb, maybe. Will or shall plus be plus, then V3 plus Y plus object. The same constant thing. A story, will or shall, will. You take will, okay, you opt will. Then you add the constant be, V3 plus Y plus object. Write as a main verb, write, wrote, written. You have to use only the V3 form here in passive constructions. Then Y plus object. Sergeant as the subject becomes the object of that passive form. What about the future continuous tense? Simply look at the active statement. That is already there. That's with every tense. Sergeant will be writing a story. So it's easy for you to identify. When you see will be plus V3 and all, you can definitely take that to be the passive form. Especially when you see by plus some name or some object or some person. So, see, you can easily identify that. It is not confusing at all. There is no chance for confusion like will be, somewhere it is ing, somewhere it is will be plus V3. Such questions may be there when we are not thorough about tenses first. If we are thorough with tenses, the second step is very simple. So in that case, that part is over. Future continuous, the simple construction looks like will be, again as it is a continuous tense, ing form only, but will be is already there. There is no addition. Yeah, if you think about to mark the difference, already will be is given here. Plus some other constant adding that will be, making it, that may make it very awkward. That must be the reason why it doesn't have a passive form. Will be being or will be being, nothing will match the normal flow of the sentence. It will affect the natural flow of the sentence construction. That may be one reason why it doesn't have a passive form. Future perfect. The construction, the active sentence, you just look at the active sentence. Sergeant will have written a story. Will have plus V3 plus object. That is the normal active sentence, because we know in future perfect tense will have or shall have are the available helping verbs, and as it is a perfect tense, already you have to use the V3 form. So again our task is going to be easy, because for passive voice formation we definitely need, for any tense we need the V3 form. So here, as it is a perfect tense, it's in its active sentence itself we get the V3 form. So it's just about writing down that after using the after making the first part fine. Let us look at that as story. You interchange a story. Don't forget to take a story. Should not be like story only, take a background. No, a story is the subject. Now, once interchanged. A story. Okay, will or shall. Will or shall. Plus have plus been plus. Yeah, you add the next will have been. Actually, you are taking completely, you are seeking the help of the neighboring next tense, because it doesn't have a passive form. You completely, actually, in unison, this takes the complete helping verb form. But when you write down the construction of formation, you just make it differentiated in this way. Otherwise, a story will have been. Already will have is there in the active form. So you have to need an additional support of an additional term is must. So you take, actually that have been is the additional form. It's good that you write down like will have or shall have. Actually this helping verb is will have. So in this way also it is fine, but we have to see being is actually the constant that you take from the next, or as an addition to mark the difference, you take being. Otherwise, will have written. Then it is wrong. So will have been written. Subject plus will have or shall have, which is the real helping verb, plus be as the additional constant, plus V3 plus by plus object. The usual constant part of any passive voice statement. Affirmative statement. So this is like in future continuous tense. Just have a look at the normal way of constructing the sentence. Sergeant will have been, already in that it will have been. Very lengthy helping verb. So for the sake of making a difference, will have been plus any other term will bring again an awkwardness. Maybe the reason that it also doesn't have a passive form. Then in the continuous tense, if it is an active statement, it should be writing ing form continuous. But it's there is no passive form and there is no question of V3 form. But here already every other part you can see the passive form in that V3 form only is used. Whether it is simple present, whether it is present continuous, whether it is present perfect or any other past form like a simple past, past continuous. Everywhere you can see V3 plus by plus object. So every time we need the V3 form of the verb. So that's very important that while learning tenses itself, you make a list of the very commonly used main verbs like go, went, gone, see, saw, seen, take, took, taken, come, came, come, teach, taught, walk, walked, work, worked, cut, put. All these are very simple and it's not even simple. Sometimes it's not even simple. We have the tendency to add ed. Worked. Walk, walked. So every time we have the tendency to add ed with other verbs as well. We think that it's right also if you do not learn it separately. Teach. Think about adding ed with that. So it's actually wrong. It's teach, taught. The whole form changes for the sake of having V2 and V3 form. Sometimes all the forms are the same, like cut. There is no change at all. We just assume that, yeah, the V3 form, the cut I use here is V3. The cut I use here is V1. That's all. We have to be satisfied with that. In the case of those types of verbs which do not have any form change, like V1, V2, V3 remain the same. But some of them are having drastic difference. See, think about go, went, gone. Think about adding ed with that. V2 and V3 to form V2 and V3. It's utter wrong. It's go, went, gone only. V2 for talking about the V2 or a past action, you have to say I went or she went, he went. It's never go plus ed. So that is the way, that part also is very important if you want to do all these things very clearly well, without much difficulties. Otherwise we are stuck in between. We know this rule. We know the formation. But we don't know which is the V3 form of the given main verb. So at least the major daily life, some of those are very common main verbs. Sometimes we have to refer that in our conversation, like think, teach, learn, sit, come, go. All these are very commonly used main verbs. The task we perform on a daily life basis. At least those V3, V1, V2, V3 forms we will try to learn and things will become more clear. One more thing I would like to remind is not just the affirmative sentences, but a question can be transformed into passive form. A command can be transformed into such imperative sentences can be transformed into passive form. The rules are there. Very simple, but the rules, actually this is not the same rule for those, and we will discuss that in another session. We try to think about the active and passive voice transformation and the reverse. Think about the way, how to, if you get the sentence in this way. It's just a very simple thing. Actually, you just think about this particular sentence is given for an exam, as a question. Let's just discuss that also here. You get this kind of a question. And again the question looks like transform the sentence, that's all. There is nothing like active to passive or passive to active. So that also is a task. Sometimes we have to identify before everything, we have to identify whether it is active or passive. It's good that every time you mark down, after identifying the kind of sentence given to you, by plus object and all you see. So, and with the ease. Something V3 and all. It's amoris or actually takes in the normal active state, it takes ing form only. So obviously it is a passive voice statement. It's a passive voice statement. So now our task is to identify the subject and object. Here the subject here in this sentence is this one. The object is going to be Sergeant. So now to make the active voice, now our task is to transform it into active voice. You take the subject in the beginning. Okay, but now our task is to see of which tense, for which tense actually this kind of a formation rule occurs, exists. This is, but there is no being at all. So now you can think about that sentence to be the passive form of simple present. So how will you write down a simple present active voice statement when you have Sergeant as the subject and write as the main verb, or written or write as the main verb? That is the only thing we have to do. Just to think about the Sergeant writes. This is not about any construction or anything, but applying our logic. Story. With the available subject and object, you just try to make the simple sentence of that particular tense. Once it is identified, only in that case you can do this. If you haven't identified this passive form to be this passive form as the sentence of some simple present tense, you can never do this. Otherwise, when you get a singular subject and a main verb and an object, you can easily make an active voice statement for that particular tense, simple present. So identify the tense, whether it is in simple, whether it is an active or passive based sentence. It's very important. Otherwise, you are likely to be confused. So that's all for the time being. Thank you so much for listening.